epic, but so simple. Octave, octave, octave. Powerful, epic music doesn't have to be complex, and this particularly applies to orchestral music, because when you have a mass of instruments playing together, almost anything sounds good. This is from the beginning of Die Walküre by Richard Wagner, arguably one of the most powerful and exhilarating operas ever written. But despite how epic this is really simple music. Cello and contrabass, they're just going up and down on a D minor scale, and they're accompanied by violin and viola just playing tremolo on the note D. There are literally only two parts to the beginning of this score. When more instruments finally come in, they're all playing the exact same note, the note E, in different octaves. And so although this page looks a little complex at first, really it can be reduced to just 3 simple lines of material. But a little later, it gets even better. Here, Wagner really wants to get things going, and so he does something extraordinarily clever. He first takes his bass line from before and he gives it to all of the strings and to some of the winds. But then he pushes them out of kilter, and he also adds a little bit of tremolo to the upper strings and sostenuto to the winds, and by doing this, he creates a sort of orchestral texture. So the music's now much more complex, but there's no new material here. This is all still the exact same motif from before. And so all he does now is add some epic brass lines to go on top of that orchestral texture. Now, one of the benefits to working in this way is that because so much of the orchestral material is coming from just one motif, that helps to bind the material together. It gives the listener a sense of coherency when listening to the piece. But in general, taking a minimalistic approach to writing epic music helps to keep the music transparent. Despite the fact that everyone's playing loud, it's not chaotic and it's not muddy. You can still hear everything that's going on here. And this is a trait that you can find among many of the most epic works of music history. Doesn't love this piece of music? Now, I know at first this might appear terrifyingly complicated, but it's actually totally fine. This section right here can literally be reduced to just 2 parts. And the part after that is even simpler. All of the strings are just playing a run together in octaves. In fact, if you summarize the score in this way, it very quickly becomes apparent why this music is so powerful. The piece is continually changing orchestral texture. It starts very transparent with just individual chords, and then it explodes outwards in a complex 4 or 5 part texture. But then it's compressed down again to just 2 voices, and then finally to 1 voice. And it's this heavy contrast between complexity and simplicity which makes the music so dynamic and exhilarating. You see, if the music is loud and full but also complex for too long, it just becomes too much. Instead of feeling powerful and epic, it can just become a little bit tedious. But perhaps we should now look at arguably the most epic piece of music ever written. Carmina Burana has penetrated deep into pop culture. You find it in film, television, advertising, sporting events. It's everywhere because it is the definition of epic, but it's actually crazy simple music. If you take a page from the first movement and you reduce it to the bare bones, you've practically got about 3 parts. You've got a pedal D, and above that you have an ostinato, and these continue practically throughout the entire thing. But then above that, you have the melody, sometimes on its own and sometimes harmonized. And similar to with Wagner, you can see that these motifs in and of themselves are stupidly simple. But if they're catchy enough, that's all you need, because once it's orchestrated and you have an entire choir singing this simple melody, you breathe intensity and power into that material. And when Carl Orff wants to increase the energy, all he does is increase the instrumentation. He adds a couple of octaves, a little bit of harmony, and well, that's it, you're off to the races. Carl Orff himself stated that a special feature of the style of the Carmina Burana music is a static construction. In its strophic structure, there is no development. A musical formulation, once found, remains the same in all its repetitions. Its repeatability and effect depend on the terseness of the statement. In other words, the music is straightforward and there's no elaborate development. The power comes from the directness and simplicity of the repeated motifs. Of course, not to mention the epic instrumentation as well. So if you're currently working on something epic and it's not as powerful as you'd like it to be, well, maybe you're just doing too much. Let me know in the comments what some of your favorite examples of epic simplicity are. Bye!